Yeah, so I'm Randy Olive. Oh, thank you. Got it. Maybe change this. Okay. So if those of you who don't know, my name is Randy Olive, and I've been in real estate for 7 years. I used to run a bigger office for Keller Williams. I worked for a bigger team for Keller Williams, started my own brokerage. And so the pathway to leadership inside of my space has just kind of been very prominent once I got into the understanding of production and all that stuff. And so I've been really serious about doing what I can to be able to step into leadership inside of an industry where, unfortunately, it seems like we just give leadership to people who are good at their job. And just because you're good at your job does not mean that you're just a great leader. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're not a great leader, but it shouldn't be the thing that helps us to be able to catapult leadership. It should be those who are looking to be able to build empathy, to be able to build into people's lives, to help others grow versus just telling them what to do, which is a lot of times what ends up happening. So before we get started, I do want to take a quick second and just affirm everybody and for all of us who have stepped into this room. When I started 2022, okay, so I got jumped into last year. I was really excited. I thought it was going to be my banner year. I talked about it as my golden year, and it began phenomenally, right? I was ready, excited. Everything was good. I had my brokerage going. I had my people going. I had everything, and it was just moving smoothly forward. And we have those people in our lives that call us to be bigger, that call us to be better. And I had somebody in probably around February or March of last year, and they just looked at me, and I was talking about something so incredibly insignificant. I said, I'm afraid of the dark, which that is the fear. I'm afraid of the dark. And this person grabbed me and it's like, hey, I need to tell you something. It was just one of those Holy Spirit moments. I just need to tell you something. Your fear of the dark is bigger than what you think it is. And you really need to look at that inner child moment of who you are. And there's something that is unsettling about your inner child, and you need to do some work on that. And I was like, oh, all right, cool. Sounds great. And then I did the work. I actually took the advice, and 2022 ended up being a year that broke me to the point where then I could rebuild what I knew that I could always become. And so I think a lot of people in this room may be living inside of that same story. We may have these moments where we're looking at maybe not that inner child moment, not trauma moment, but we may be looking at our businesses and going like, I'm spinning my wheels and I'm doing everything I can, and I just feel like I'm at the end of the road. Well, the reality is that like you are doing those things, right? Don't take those things away. But it doesn't mean that you're not doing the work that's necessary for your growth. It doesn't mean that you're not doing the work that's necessary for you to be able to build new things, to build better things. It doesn't mean that you're not compounding those little steps to help you get where you're going to go. And so I just want you to feel affirmed in what you're going through right now. Though some of us are having like really great moments and some of us are having really trial by fire moments, each one of those spaces is really going to give you the peace to be able to get to what you're going to have next. It really is what I've seen, that stepping stone of being able to get to what you're going to have next. And so 2023 and 2022 ended up being one of my hardest years. And yet now I'm sitting in 2023 trying to put the pieces back together, realizing that it will be that much sweeter knowing what I've been able to do. So I just want to affirm you guys. Y'all are exactly in the right place. One of the things that I want to start out talking about, which is really, really important to me, is the word capacity. One of the things that I have a challenge with is that when we get into these moments where we're listening to a class, or we're feeling these coaching moments where we've got somebody who's pressing on us, a lot of times we end up hearing what we need to do, and we go, okay, I've got to do all of those things. And the reality is that you probably do need to do all those things over time, but you've also got to take into consideration your capacity. I don't think a lot of us really understand what our capacity is. And until we take a really good glimpse of that capacity, we're not going to be able to fully realize the goals or the potentials that we have. And here's what I mean by that idea of capacity. So if I am looking at the way that business owners are taught how to run business, in any kind of scenario, we use math, right? So if I looked at what I want inside of real estate, I want this straight line of like, man, give me 12 closings a month, just 12 closings a month. Give me that consistency of that 12 closings a month. That's that straight line, right? The reality is that our business in our world, especially what we're looking at right now, it hits that bell curve, especially inside of Houston. When we look at that bell curve, then if I want to make this line flat and the bell curve shows me what the activity of the market is doing, well, I know that when the market is low, I increase my activities to get to that straight line. And when the market is high, I have to maintain consistency, but I do have that ability to really focus on standard operating and procedures to be able to help me maintain. And so I pull my activities into the space that helps me to even out that line. That's really that counterbalance thing that a lot of leaders talk about. When I look at capacity, there's a third line that a lot of times we're not really paying that much attention to, and that's my own personal space. And so I'm going to tell you guys, I am divorced and I have 3 kids, and I get them every other weekend, and I grab them during the week and we go have lunch and I go play and I do things all the time with them. Dad is one of my favorite descriptions. I love being a dad. Well, my desire to be a dad affects the capacity of what I'm capable of doing on the scale of business. And so when I look at that, the chaos of my own life, I have to take that into consideration. I'm going to tell you today. So today I'm going to be teaching this class. As soon as this class is over, I'm going to grab my sweet little babies and we're going to go to the beach to meet up with my best friend. And I'm going to sit at the beach with them for a few hours. Well, today, the amount of work that I have to do to really maintain that execution of my business is going to be, unfortunately, backburnered. That's okay because of the reasons why we're going to have the conversation today about the mission, the vision, and the value side of things. Today, I'm okay with taking a bit of a step back, knowing what I'm doing for my family and for that life satisfaction that I have put into place. And so when I thought about putting this class together and being able to share some of these things, my goal is to not change your mind about the ways that your coach is teaching you to be able to move forward in the space of your business. My goal is to help you think about things in a little bit of a different way so that then as you grab and gravitate towards the busyness of the market that is coming, I'm telling you right now, it is coming, that you don't take your life satisfaction, put it on the back burner, and then you end up burning out because you don't have that specificity of your life to be able to go, when I look at my business, it has to lead to the life that I desire. And so I'm just here to really be hopefully a curious button for you, that you will take what I say, pull it into your world, question a few things, and be able to put some like really certain and specific areas of growth, of life satisfaction, of like goal setting, or whatever those things may be. My hope is that it's just one little thing that you grab, and then it makes what you're doing that much better. So when I look at capacity, I really want y'all to really take a look at that and understand what your capacity is, because it really does help a lot when we're setting those goals and we're starting to move into those spaces of building our businesses. If I do that first, if I go, okay, here's a life that I desire, well, then I need to start living that life that I desire right now. Because unfortunately, what I have watched, and I've really, I mean, there's some case study, massive businesses that are truly living outside of their mission, vision, values now because of the way they grew. They didn't take for serious the life satisfaction and their capacity, and they grew so big so fast without putting those barriers or those the leverage into place, the ego to the side, that now those businesses are struggling. So you gotta understand your capacity, and the way you look at your capacity is just truly dig into that. If I know for a fact that I have my kids, well, then I know that I need to calibrate what it is I'm going to do for my business that day or that month to make sure that it exceeds what was necessary, and that I'm very specific about that business that day. We can't just live in that straight line. We have to live in the chaos of the world that we're in. We have to be okay with that. So when I look at mission, vision, and value, this is the basis for how we get everything started. So when I'm looking at growing my business in any space, I've always started in this world. And the reason why I started in this world has nothing to do with like a really cool story, a really cool moment, a really cool any of that. What I look at is very specifically the businesses that I admire and that I want to pull elements from and say, like, I want something like that inside of my real estate business. The reality is that I can't take and piece those elements together and say, okay, here's my business, because what they did was they built a foundation of their mission, vision, and values. They built that foundation first. And so their elements that they created inside of their business all were birthed from their mission and vision and values. When you look at Chick-fil-A, they are closed on Sunday. That is a value. They will honor the Lord and they will be closed on Sundays, no matter what. And when you look at the most profitable day of fast food inside of that space, like, they could make so much money if they were open on Sunday. They're not open on Sunday because that's not what they do. When they say my pleasure, it is because of that customer satisfaction that they built in the foundations of their mission, vision, and values. When you look at what Apple does in creating this counterculture technology push and why they're so successful is because they don't stray away from that. They're very much dug into that. And so when they create these creative concepts to be able to sell their product, they're creating it from an experiential space. It's not that you go into an Apple store and go like, oh, I want my business to feel like an Apple store. The business feels like an Apple store because their foundation of mission, vision, value says we won't be anything other than this. And so as we go in and we look at different studies of businesses, right? Because we all are a little bit of a conglomeration of a business that is out there. So we go and we look at the Ritz-Carlton so how do we create a customer service that feels like Ritz-Carlton? Well, if we go and we do that and we only do that element will drop out of the bottom of the bucket eventually. And I'm just telling you, I know that for a fact. That element will eventually drop out of the bottom of the bucket because until we have that foundation of that true mission, vision, values, we don't have the filters or the foundation that's going to be prominent for us to say, when my customer service is in this space, it's because my mission is nailed to that customer service experience. And then you don't stray away from that. You don't chase shiny objects. And in all honesty, if you are chasing the shiny object, your values and your vision, they're going to be a really great filter of whether or not this is something that I need to put into place. When I go and I start kind of gravitating towards more and more and more, the reality is that I can scoot all of that in and I can really focus in on what it is of the businesses that I'm trying to build. Because what's really cool about real estate is that there's so many opportunities in real estate. And what's really blinding about real estate is there's so many opportunities in real estate. And so you've got to be able to start putting in the specificity to your business to be able to say, this is who I am, and this is how my business is going to be built. So that one day, the reality is that when you're on stage and when you're speaking about how your business has grown and you say, well, these are the things that I do for my client experience, those elements of that standing operating procedure, it's going to come from the foundation of your mission, vision, and values because you didn't stray from who you wanted to be. That's my opinion. And that's really where I come from and where I've always tried to build everything that I do. I want that foundation so that I have a really good filter in place. Part of the reason why I have a really good filter in place is because I'm an entrepreneur and I am a little bit of that, like I love chasing these really cool projects. And so for you guys that are entrepreneurs in the same way, we have to have some like bumpers put up. When we go bowling, we need bumpers put up because we're going to be so attracted to that, like, oh man, that would be really cool. And that may be true, but you've got to be able to reel it in. I have a friend of mine who's really massive accountability to me. And literally on Saturday, we're having a conversation and she goes, Randy, you're doing too much. I was like, no. Let me explain all the things I'm doing. She goes, no, Randy, you're doing too much. And it called me to go, like, I'm teaching this class, I'm preparing for this class, and I had to reel it back in and go back into the space and go, okay, what am I really doing? So that then I can pull it all back in and be focused because it helps me to focus back. So the first thing we're looking at is mission. So when I look at the idea of mission, what I really feel that mission is that it's kind of that fuel for the day, if you will. My mission statement should always be a little bit in that fuel space. I should have this desire to do based off of my mission statement. So when you wake up in the morning and you're not really feeling it, that mission statement should really find a way to elevate you to keep making those next steps. You know, a lot of times people will tell, and as a matter of fact, we've had classes in here. I've listened to some amazing people who will go and they'll say, you know, you've got to be able to do those affirmations, like leadership is affirmations. You know, I look at that and I say, yeah, but your business is a living, breathing element, right? It is a living, breathing person. And so your business should also have those same affirmations. And so when I get up and I am putting on my uniform, I'm putting my armor to be able to start the day, that mission statement should give me fuel. Now I'm going to tell you, unfortunately, a lot of times what we do with our mission statements is we go in and we say, I want to be the number one X, Y, and Z. The challenge with a mission statement that says like, I just want to be the number one X, Y, and Z. And I'm not downplaying anybody who has that in place, but to be the number one in their market or be the number one this or be the number one that, that's just uninspiring. Like I can wake up in the morning and especially if I've hit that number one space and go, nah, I'm number one. Or if I'm striving to get to the number one and a new team rushes in and they're taking over the area, it's like, oh, well, I'll never be able to be like them. I'm okay with number two. It's just uninspiring when we get into these spaces where we want to put like, I want to be the number one this or the number one that. And the reason why it's uninspiring is because it doesn't create this space to where on my really hard days, it makes me want to jump into getting the business going. The mission statement isn't so much for the everyday as much as it is for the hard days. And I want you to hear that the mission statement that you have for your business, it isn't for the everyday as much as it is for the hard days. When I people who go and they jump into their why, like, why am I doing this? And they start tying in their family, like my kids, my family, my dreams. And they start looking at it, those things are inspiring us to be able to keep moving forward. Well, the reality is that our business has a child, it has a dream, it has a vision. And so often we go through the business dictionary and we go, okay, so my mission statement, how should it look? And we want it to be crafted towards this, like, I want to be the number one this, or like, my mission is to provide the best customer service to every real estate company, blah, blah, blah. And again, hear me say, I'm not poking at anybody specific. And if you feel that, that's okay. Come back into the space and try to rework it, because it's not untrue that you want to be that, but your mission truly isn't to get there, right? Mission truly isn't to be number one. Your mission is to create a business that gets you to number one. So what is that? What does that look like? You know, when you look at Starbucks, they have a mission statement that fits into the space of providing community one coffee cup at a time, something along those lines, right? You can go back and fact check me later. That's a really cool mission statement. I want to create community one coffee cup at a time. I think about the Starbucks that I walk into every day. They don't want to be the number one Starbucks in this area, but I guarantee you they're going to become the number one Starbucks in that area. They know me by name. Every single one of them greets me. They ask me when I'm gone what I was doing. They asked me about my birthday when I walked in. Tell me that when I have $0, that I'm not going to scrounge up $3 and change so I can walk into that Starbucks and feel good about who I am. When we really look at about it, like, what is it that we are doing in our businesses before the busy season comes? What are we doing in our business that creates a desire to wake up every single day and let that business why be the reason on my hard days I still do it? When I look at my own business and what I'm doing, I had to readjust all of that and really come back to the space of going, like, really, why am I doing what I'm doing? And I'm going to tell you, I wrote it down because I've been reworking it, because my person called me out on it. My accountability person called me out on it. And I really started thinking, like, what I really want to do is I want to make all of the small steps worth big opportunities. My mission inside of my business is I want to make all of the small steps worth the big opportunities. And so when I wake up in the morning, I've got to make 100 phone calls. Well, I know that those 100 phone calls are truly getting into this space where I'm taking very small steps inside of the space that I know will make a huge opportunity, not only for me, but for the people who are on the other side of the relationships that I'm building. And so, guys, I want to call you to do that. Like, what does it look like to build a mission statement that's massive, right? That can fit in my hard days. Now, here's the thing. I was going to say this to the end, but here's the thing. I'm not giving you any how-tos, and I'm not giving you any slides, because I'm putting this pressure on you guys to take that next step, to have accountability. I am opening my book wide open, which I don't know exactly what I've said and what I'm doing, but I'm opening my book wide open to do one-on-one with anybody who desires to try to build this bigger and that wants help crafting this. I am opening my book to help you guys, anybody, one-on-one, build this. And so whatever that looks like, I am committing to it. Whether I have to do it at 10 p.m., I don't care. I am committing right now to help you guys, because this is so important. It makes all the difference, especially on my really hard days right now, to be able to move forward to help everybody see that those small steps are worth the big opportunities, because that's what I lived. That's what I lived. And it's worth it to be able to give that in return. So I hope that makes sense, guys. That mission statement, it's not for the everyday as much as it is for the hard day. It's the fuel inside of what we do. Vision. So when we look at vision, I'm going to tell you, vision is always the hardest thing that we can ever do. And unfortunately, it's because we become such a, oh my gosh, instant gratification, everything. And I love instant gratification. I'm not going to lie. Like, I love that I can call and have diapers delivered to my door. I love that I can, like, run and get fast food. I love that my coffee can be ordered ahead of time. I love that every single thing that I do inside of my can happen without me moving off of my couch. Instant gratification is a beautiful thing. The challenge is that we've been starting to get so instilled in that instant gratification that we have a difficult time like looking into the vision and looking inside of what we're doing. Part of it is also, I think, and I hope it's okay to say, is that like we strayed so far from a storytelling culture, and this is a little bit of Randy's space, but we've strayed so far from being a storytelling culture that we don't know how to create this mental picture, this mental capacity to go into the future and say, this is who I am. This is who I'm striving to be. This is what I'm putting into place. This is what I see. This is the world that I see. It's hard for us because we strayed so far from the storytelling culture that we go bullet points. We go, all right, so I'm going to do this. 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 The reality is that like our brain can see those bullet points, but our brain attaches to story. Think about how often you get lost inside of a story, how often you can be listening to somebody who's a really good storyteller and like an hour goes by and you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. On the flip side of that, think about the people you sit across the table from and they're telling you a story and they're literally giving you a monotone bullet point. This is what's happening. You're like, I want this to end so much faster than what you're doing. Could you just bypass and go to the end and tell me exactly what happened? Because you're terrible at telling the story. When our vision lacks story, it is going to give us nothing. When our vision lacks story, it's going to give us nothing because we can't attach to anything that's going to help us to be able to move in those spaces. We can't see the future and be able to put ourselves in that future now. Part of what vision needs to do, it needs to be able to take us in the now, and we need to be able to see it and experience it right now. I need to act like I am striving to be in the future. So one of the main things that I look at vision, guys, if it helps you out, is that I look at vision more like an umbrella, okay? So I look at it like an umbrella. A lot of people look at this vision as like a filter. I look at it more like an umbrella. So here's all these great opportunities, these great ideas, these great shiny objects, all of this stuff is falling, and it can fall and it can come into my world. But when I have my umbrella up with my vision, I have a very specific vision in place. I still get to see everything that bounces off that umbrella. And when I see it, if it's something that I want, I can reach out, I can grab it, and I can pull it into my world because it fits inside of my world. I get to make that decision. And so everything that's raining down, I get to go and pick and choose what it is that's going to help me to move into the space that I have to be in. Vision is such a really interesting space for me because of our inability to see into the future. And so something I always want to, or something I always do as an exercise, is that I take and I want to answer 3 questions when I start looking at vision, okay? And so you can write these questions down, but these are the 3 questions that I start looking at when I start looking at vision. How do I want to craft this vision for my business? How do I really want to see myself in the future? The first thing is, what did I gain? Okay, so if I look at myself in 1 year, 5 year, 10 years, and I look at that scope and I go, if I did everything that I wanted to do inside of my business, what did I gain in the next year? What did I gain in the next 5 years? What did I gain in the next 10 years? And those things can go anywhere from like, I gained money. It could be materialistic stuff. It could be freedom. I got more time. It could be legacy. I was able to buy 5 properties to be able to give to my kids. You know, it's like what I gained can like truly flow in many different directions in that 1 year, that 5 year, that 10 year. It can be a massive difference. Okay. The second question though that I want to ask, so most people just look at that gain column. When we're looking at the future, we go, okay, in the future, I want to be able to do $10,000 in business and $10,000 a month in business. And if I was able to do $10,000 a month in business, I was able to buy myself a car. And, you know, so we look at just what we gained. A lot of times we don't take it a step further, which is really, really important in that visualization process. And so the second question I always ask is, how does it feel? Okay. How does it feel is so foreign to so many of us, especially, I'm going to be honest, if you're a man in this room, chances are you are going to have a terrible job explaining your feelings when you look at what you gain. What you gained should have created a feeling inside of that space. And if it didn't, then you need to go back and look at whether or not gaining that was worth it. And you may need to put a different gain in place. But how do you feel is so important. And we take feelings out of business all the time. And I think that is the wrong thing to do. Feelings should absolutely be inside of business. You should have your feelings in your business. Now you should have accountability and gut checks for that, but your feelings should be inside of your business. Otherwise, what are you doing it for? If I'm not trying to get to a space that I feel confident, I feel good, I feel affirmed, I feel whatever the feeling may be, if we can't get to that space, then really, what are you doing this for? And I know that sounds weird to some of us, but the truth is that that feeling is really, really important. Until you start unlocking that feeling, I think you're always going to chase one thing or another to find satisfaction. This is why a lot of people say money doesn't bring satisfaction. Well, that's true. It's because we didn't actually align what the gain of that was really going to move us into. And so, how does it feel is really important. Here's a really easy way to start getting how does it feel a little bit more significant, to make sure that it can attach to me and I can start moving towards it in a big way. How does it feel? Most of us will go, oh, it feels good, right? That's easy. It's like, man, you just made $1 million. How's it feel? I feel great. It's like, awesome. That's so uninspiring. How does it feel? If you say great, finish it with because. How does it feel today? It feels great because, and then start filling in the blank, and it'll help you then to start building those feelings. And those feelings really will lead to more. If you think about it, a lot of people will go in and they'll say, what's the old saying? Emotions make us act. Data makes us think, emotions make us act, right? Well, think about that. Like, if that is true, then if your feelings business are absent, data is going to make you think, but those emotions aren't there for you to be able to act on some of those things and act on those things in really big. That's a little bit really true. I want you to think and I want you to personify your business. Your business had a feeling. What would it feel like? When we take those things out and we think, no, it's just execution. That's just not true. The execution is going to be, it's just going to be there. You wouldn't be an entrepreneur if you couldn't execute. But sometimes what we're missing is attaching those feelings inside of that space. Like, if I'm a living, breathing organism inside of my business, then why does it, if I'm not a living, breathing organism inside of my business, then why does it matter that I have customer care? All I need really is a spreadsheet and press ones and zeros, because I just need business. So just go do something that gives you business. But if we really wanted customer care, it's probably because we do care. And so our business does have feelings. And so if somebody ever asks you and start practicing, it's up to you, how you feeling good? Don't stop with good, finish with because. Or tired. I'm so tired because, oh, I'm so busy because. And just change that, like change that way that you have those conversations. And if somebody doesn't want to be on the other side of that conversation, well, then just let it be. Let it be. Let it be. But I think it will change the way you react and interact with your relationships. And it'll change the way that you can start seeing vision and to be able to pull vision inside of your space. When you're able to attach that feeling of, when I was truly able to make the money that I needed to make, or to have the amount of clients I needed to have, it felt like I was so affirmed that I could become the entrepreneur I could, that in the face of everybody who saw me as a single mom that was not going to be able to balance time, family, and business and do it all amazingly, like, I get to now say, y'all thought I had a mic drop moment and I was just going to be like, all right, I'm out. That was good. So I apologize for that. I'm not sure what happened. My internet just pooped out a bit. So I hope everybody caught that. The how does it feel is really important. And the last question that you asked, so the three questions is, what did I gain? How does it feel? And the last thing is going to be, what did they gain? All right, what did the people around you gain by your ability to meet the needs of your vision? What did the people around you gain by your ability to meet the needs of your vision? This is something that I love to look at, because for me, it changed my view of that why, and it brought the why back into my vision a little bit more strong. It put a little more oomph to it, put the foundation to it, because when I look at it, the people who are around me, if I am in my good space, because I'm attaching to moving towards my mission and my vision, if I'm really in that vision space, the people around me gain so much by me executing vision. Like, think about how free you are inside of yourself, inside of your being, if you're executing your vision, right? Think about the peace that you have when you're executing your vision. Think about the ability to make that money and the people who are around you. I have one of my things that I have as an affirmation is that I want the financial safety to be spontaneous in life. Like the people who are around me who get to be part of that spontaneity, that's going to be so much fun. So if I am hitting my vision, what did they gain? What did the people who are around me gain? And when we look at that and we start looking at this vision, right? We start crafting and say, okay, in 1 year I gained this and it felt like this. And the people around me, what they gained was a better version of me. Or what they gained was their own family legacy, or they gained their own freedom, right? So there's elements that we look at when we go into the vision space that we're very limited, where we go, okay, this is how I want my business to be in the future. But the reality is that progress or that journey should have a few different elements into it that'll help us to be able to craft that story that then makes my vision that much stronger, so that then I can compound it in a way that really gives me, whether I want to grow this massive team or I want the most amazing life satisfaction, it happens with certainty because my vision tells the story. And my story, my brain, my body can attach to that. And my nervous system goes, yes, this is what we're moving for. My brain starts to light up when I see the things in my world that match my vision, that I know that will create the opportunities that I need to grow. But when we look at it, such a singular space of just what did I achieve in a year, that's such a narrow space. That gate doesn't really equivalent to a whole lot, and it allows me to stray from my vision. But when I look and I say, what did I gain and how does it feel? And what did the people around me gain? Well, it gives so much more significance, and it gives a lot of accountability. Because if I called people into my world and if I call people into my vision better be big enough for them to achieve what they desire as well, especially for those of us who are running a team. My vision better be big enough for them to come into my fold and to achieve what they desire as well. It's a really huge accountability. And if y'all are running teams and you don't have a vision statement, I'm going to tell you, you will have turnover like crazy. If you're experiencing turnover like crazy, I would go to your vision statement first. People, I've watched this in over and over and over again. When they can't see your vision and put themselves inside of it, you're going to be used for their education and ultimately their ability to use you as a stepping stone towards next. In my opinion, right? Okay. So then we got mission, we got vision, and the last thing is looking at values. And this is where I want to slow down just a hair. So when I look at values, guys, values are about relationships. If you really want to understand what your values are, I want you to think about if you were in right now, if you're going to make a list and you're going to list out all of the characteristics of a person that you would want to date, right? And I know some of us are married, some of us are single, some of us are families, so we're all over the place. But if you were going to list out all the characteristics of somebody that you would want to date, what would they be? Just list them out. If you listed all those things out, chances are that's your value statement inside of your business as well. You don't want people working for you that are outside of this. You don't want to go, well, I value integrity and I value tediousness and I value, you start listing all these business words. It's like, no, you don't know it. You don't even know those. You wouldn't look at your spouse and be like, your tediousness is so good. I'm using a word that's just off the charts, but like, that's the reality though, is that like, no, I look at my spouse, I look at the person who I want to date, and man, I want somebody who like is empathetic. I want somebody who honors the truth. I want somebody who has that devotion. I want somebody who is their own person and is very serious about their own peace. And I start looking at those things. And the reality is that like, yeah, when I look at my client list, I want a client list who's devoted to me. I want a client list who, has a bit of that desire for what I'm doing. I want a client who appreciates what I'm doing. Well, those are all good things that should be probably some sort of element or synonym inside of your value statement. Like, where does your value statement come from? And the easiest space to dig into that is to look inside of your relationships. So often we look at everything inside of our business and we go to these great giant business coaches and we go, okay, everything that we need to do is like, we've got to go to this business book, this business thesaurus, and we've got to be able to go dig out these words that make you sound like a politician or a weatherman, dedicated, determined, dependable. It's like, awesome. That sounds cool for a person delivering my political speeches, but it doesn't sound good when I'm sitting across from somebody who's about to go through one of the biggest challenges in their life, trying to figure out how to get their estate sold so that then they can move on from the passing of a mother. That's different. Or that I bring somebody on my team who is young and ambitious, who really wants to be able to build a business because they're the ones who are creating a new generation inside of their space, a generational wealth inside of their space. Well, that's a lot for me to be able to go into. And I don't need the people in my life who don't fit the relationships that I would desire. And that's just true. And so when I go into what I'm doing, building a business, my values inside of my business, they absolutely should be built on the values that I have inside of a relationship. Now, you can change the words up a little bit, right? You don't have to say they need to love me unconditionally. It's like, well, I want somebody who is devoted to the process. It's like, cool. And what's really neat then, if you look at that inside of relationships, if we really look at that, if I look at somebody and I want them to be this inside of my world, well, if I become the best version of that, I'm going to attract those things, right? So if I want somebody who's devoted to me, like, I'm going to attract that if I show devotion. And the second layer to that is that when I start to build my customer care, like if I'm going through my customer care and I look at my values and I go, well, I value devotion. Well, my communication is going to be so on point. I won't miss a communication opportunity with my client if I really want them to be devoted to me. If I want them to be devoted to me, then I'm going to be absolutely devoted to them. And so as we build these standard operating procedures, and some of these standard operating procedures that you guys already have in place without a value statement, it's fine. But I'm going to tell you, it's easy to forget. How many of us have had a client call us and say, hey, it's just been a couple of days, I want to know where we're at in the process. We're thinking, oh my goodness, yeah, no, it's fine. We're in that, remember what I told you, we're going to be in that lull where it's going to, well, that's fine. But no news makes somebody else on the other end nervous. Think about this. Anytime you've ever been in a relationship and somebody is like not talked to you like in a couple of days, you get a little bit nervous and you want to check in on that. The reality is if we're going to build a business, we're going to have values at a really high level. Everything we build in standard operating procedures will filter through that value statement, and it will be strong, and we'll never forget it, because that is the proof of who we are. Our value statement is going to be the proof of who we are. And so if I look at that and I say, you know what, for me, my values are A, B, and C, I have to live up to that. If I don't, then I have become duplicitous and I'm going to track duplicity. If I don't, people are going to see straight through it. If I show up at a listing appointment and I like pull out all the wins in the world and then I lose you in the middle of it because I'm not there, like that's going to create some challenges. That's just true. And then that person is going to be, they're going to have a hard time being devoted to you. They're going to have a hard time being devoted to you. They're going to easily go and find a real estate agent who can help them be way more in tune to their needs because they've come through and they've been truthful and honest and all that stuff about them. So when I look at so I'm going to tell you my values, I have like 4 values. They're very small. I try to keep everything in a very small space. My values are relationship, advocacy, solutions, and community. Those are the things that I value inside of my business. I want relationships. And when I look at relationships are the thing that is the most, I guess, satisfying inside of my business. I love building those relationships. So many people don't realize this, but like I used to be a youth pastor back in the day, Pastor Randy. And so I am ordained. And then I had a client of mine find out that I was ordained and they were going to get married in California. But on 2/2/22, so February 2nd of 2022, they wanted to be able to have the wedding in the house that they were being built. And so I was like, done. So that they could have that cool anniversary date, I went on the front step of their house and I performed their wedding vows for them so that they could officially be married and have that as their wedding date. Like, that's a really cool story. I love that. That's relationship. That's what I think is really phenomenal. When I look at advocacy and I look at advocacy and I sit across from the people who are in front of me, like, unfortunately, when I am being an agent, when I'm being that true fiduciary, I am holding advocacy up to the highest level. If somebody is trying to pull one over on my client, I'm going to make sure they understand that. I'm going to describe things in a way, I don't care who's on the other end of the table, whether it's a vendor partner of mine who's phenomenal, I'll have a conversation with them later, but I'm going to have the true, very clear conversation with my people first to make sure that they feel the most protected, the most elevated, and that they feel like they are the most important, because that's how I want to feel if I was part of that transaction. My values are so important because that's my relationship. Solutions and solution based, that's just something that, like, I mean, goes without saying that, like, if I am in a relationship with anybody, I'm going to tell you right now, when we have any challenges, I'm going to meet them head on. I am not going to try to let that thing skirt over. All of us who've ever tried to just like forget about, it's like, you hurt my feelings, but I'm just going to forget about it. You know, you don't forget about it. It comes back and it haunts you until you deal with it. You've got to be able to find solutions. You got to be able to have those conversations. You got to be able to go into that space. And so solutions is a really important piece of the puzzle for me. I don't let conversations fester that need to happen right now, because that makes me feel terrible. And so I don't ever want anybody else to feel terrible. How many of y'all have ever been caught not saying something to somebody, and then you had one of your vendors or the lender or somebody else reach out to them before you got to them, and they call you and saying, WTF happened with A, B, and C? You're like, oh yeah, I was going to call you. I was just waiting. You're like, you knew this yesterday. What do you mean you were going to call me? Like, your chance to call me was yesterday. So being solution-based and going out there, it's really important for me. And so that's one of my values. And then community. I want to build community. I am energized by people. And so people who energize me and give me life, I want to be able to give that back. And so for me, I'm going to do everything that I can to be able to create community around me and around my business. So then it's satisfying to me, but it's also, when I look at it, so many people, especially in the housing world, like, they move into a community and they want to be able to feel like, how do I get part of this community? Well, I'm going to help be that litmus test for them to be like, are you creating community? What are you doing to create a community? Or can I be a bridge to help you create that community inside of your space? I'm going to do that as much as I can inside of the individual side of the contract, but I'm also going to help, how can I expand that into the space for them once they're able to find that next space, or when they find their home. So when I look at values, guys, values, like, it is a filter for my standard operating procedures are sound because of the values that I have in place for my business. My standard operating procedures are sound because of that. Now, many of us have these elements and they're already there. And I'm going to encourage you to go back and try not to retrofit your standard operating procedures into your mission, vision, and values. Rather, start from scratch. What would you do if you started from scratch and just breathed life, began to personify your business? And then you look at those standard operating procedures and, like, do they match or do they not match? Because you just may need to tweak them. And sometimes it's because you have a little bit of a challenge here and you can't figure out what it is. It's because you're unaligned in some space. And it just may be that, like, your values are A, B, and C, but your standard operating procedures are D, E, and F. Well, I just need to get my standard operating procedures to be A, B, and C. And sometimes it's a very small tweak. I've watched somebody go from, like, well, this is really what I want to do inside of my mission statement, to really get it aligned. And then what they realized is that the niche they wanted to create was for veterans. And then their business went, I mean, it skyrocketed. They were already doing well because they adjusted that one little space, and that one little space adjusted everything else into their standard operating procedures. And they became a niche company for veterans. And inside of that, they boomed. And so some of us, truly, we're looking at our businesses, looking at the scalability, looking at the future, looking at everything that's going to be rushing in. I just want that as that rush comes and as that building comes, the foundation is there, that so no matter what happens, you're able to continue to move your business forward. That the busyness won't ever distract you, that you have filters in place, that you have fuel, that you have inspiration, that you are tied to your business inside of a relationship makes it stronger. Like, if you were married inside of that space, it would be so much different. You would treat it so much different. And so when we have those elements inside of our mission, vision, and values, we understand where our capacity sits. Well, everything else begins to flow. And I think that's one of the things that we all desire so much in our businesses, is that everything would begin to flow. Now, here's the biggest piece. Once we have our mission, vision, values in place, we then have to visit it every single day. And that's going to be creating culture, which is for a whole nother day. But you've got to be able to have it in front of you, because when you have it in front of you and you start to live in it, and it starts to become that breathing organism, it begins to flow. It just does. That's one of those, like, you can't measure.
Oh, there he is. We have to get you unmuted, Randy.
The moral of the story is do not use T-Mobile for your internet, because apparently downstairs it drops out all the time. My apologies, guys. I hope I didn't throw you off too much by that. But I wanted to give just a little bit of space. I know that we've got 10 minutes. If anybody had like any questions, I'm no expert, but I do love in this space. I do live in this space. I have helped many people try to reframe their mind a little bit inside the space. And so if there's anything that I can do, any questions that I can answer, I'd love to be able to give a little bit of time just to open that up. Or not, we can just stare at each other too. You can unmute yourselves and we can all just stare in each other's eyes. We could sing. I can't sing out loud. We're not going to sing. But I am serious though. If anybody who wants to you want to explore this further, like my content, like, can we just, I don't know, like send it out. I'm at Randy Olive on Instagram. That'll probably be the easiest. Just go at Randy Olive. You'll see me. I look like this. And then just like message me, direct message me, and I'll jump in there. I love doing this. I love helping people. I will sacrifice time as much as possible to be in the space. So questions, if at all. If not, we can just smile and go enjoy the sunshine.
This was awesome, Randy.
Well, thank you. You know, I was looking at my business when I jumped in and was running a Keller Williams office. And I looked at all of the elements that they built as a structure for their business, which is really, really good. And I looked at what they had as a company, as a parent company, their mission, vision, and values. It was really good. And then I looked at that idea that every office is individually owned and operated. And I looked at that and I said, this is a neat opportunity for me to create a signature underneath their vision, right? Their vision was big enough for me to create my own vision underneath it. And it changed everything for that office. You're welcome so much, Miss Vivian. It changed everything in that office because like I grew my own significance in a space that I felt like I was just a player, right? And so some of us who are even on teams, some of us in this room may be on a team. When you do this, you will gain your own significance inside of their organization, right? That's what's really neat to me is that I wasn't then just a player. I was a prominent character. I became a hero in that story. Thank you, Miss Kim. I see some chats back here. Thank you, Miss Kim. Oh, thank you. That is so sweet, man. I needed that affirmation. It's been a while since I've been able to teach. So thank you, Miss Kim. That's very sweet.
Hey, Randy.
Yeah, I love this. Hi, Miss Dana.
If we take you up on this like one-on-one time, what would you want us to do before we get there?
Ooh, great question. So I have like a worksheet that I do when I do the class. And if you want to direct message me and I'll send you the worksheet with some explanations to it. Yeah, thank you. That's perfect. This is so good. I love seeing your smiling faces. I hope some of you guys got your earbuds in and you're out for your walk, walking your dog, drinking your coffee. It's so nice outside. Well, all right. That was a great question. And so again, I am at Randy Olive, really easy to find. And you're welcome to reach out to me. And yeah, I'm willing to give my one-on-one time as much as I can to whoever wants it.
Great. Thank you so
Craig,
much, Randy.
yeah,
Really
hold on.
appreciate you coming on today.
Well, yeah, Craig unmuted. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Randy, I just wanted to say thank you. I just recently passed my exam and I'm onboarding with in the position of what this looks like, creating my SOP and getting onboarded and entering this world, and the context of being driven by the things that you're talking about. Very appropriate and very helpful in terms of having a framework and a context to step into this new situation. So, thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. I love that. So, are you going in as an individual agent or are you joining a team?
Yeah,
I
individual.
might have. I think my internet is about to drop again. Did you?
Yeah, I'm coming in as an individual.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and seriously, like, shoot me a message. I'm happy to jump in and even if you just want to bounce questions, I know that like for you, you're drinking from the fire hose right now, and so
Absolutely.
so it might be a lot, but know that I'm wide open. Even if you just want to, you guys, I'm that way. You can text me little questions and stuff inside of there too. It's wide open. I am a wide open book as much as I can be as a resource.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, Sydney. Thank you for putting all this together. Thank you for putting the graphic together and getting everybody in the room and just managing it. You are phenomenal. I don't know if everybody has had the chance to interact with Sydney yet, but if you haven't, you are missing out on an opportunity to have one of the best on your side. She is. I'm so grateful for her. My experience coming into EXP is better because of her.
Oh, thank you, Randy.
You're welcome.
Thank
I
you
mean
for
that.
doing
That
this
is not.
Zoom today. I was so excited. I was texting Amanda and I was like, I need this every morning. So
Well,
really appreciate
anything I
it.
can do. You're welcome so much. All right, guys. Well, y'all go have a beautiful day. I'm gonna take my kids to Galveston.
Have fun. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Bye.